The Seapower for Africa Symposium is a premier event that brings together naval leaders to discuss maritime challenges and opportunities for cooperation on the continent. This year's symposium is focusing on good order at sea in the African maritime domain. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now engage chiefs of the navies to learn more about the objective of this year's symposium.
Chief of Ghana Navy, Rear Admiral Yakubu. Admiral, please do tell us, what is the biggest maritime security challenge facing African navies today, sir?
Thank you very much. This is a very relevant question, and because this is an issue that is confronting not only African countries, but every navy around the world. Navies are very expensive institutions to run, as much as they are very, very important. Coming down to Africa, I would not say there is one big issue that confronts all African navies together. Africa is quite big and diverse, and so different countries or in different regions may have different issues based on their national priorities and then their national policies. But regionally, and if you look at just coming out of this symposium, the cross-cutting issue that kept coming up was the lack of resources to effectively equip our navies to carry out their mandate. I think that was a cross-cutting challenge that all African countries can say is a big problem for us. And I believe it's not only Africa. I don't think there's any country in the world, not even the big powers, that have all that they need to be able to fulfill their national interest. So it is important that as African countries, we identify our priorities. As a Navy, when I wake up, the first thing I think about is how do I keep my ships operational and afloat, keeping them at sea to make sure that I keep law and order at sea and keep our waters safe. How we do that will depend on priorities that, apart from the government's own priorities, but the priorities of the Navy itself, to know which threats need to be tackled urgently and which threats can be adapted. So flexibility, adaptability, and prioritization are critical. The maritime environment holds a lot and has a potential to rapidly develop our economies. The new mantra is the blue economy. That is the economy that is generated from the sea. And so if African governments realize the importance and the potential of the seas, they would invest more. And it is our duty as African chiefs to make that case to our leaders. But national priorities are national priorities. If the government thinks that somewhere else is a bigger priority, that is where they will go. We tend to concentrate more on the land. But it is a big challenge, resources. But in terms of threats, the most visible threat, particularly in the Gulf of Guinea where I come from, is the issue of piracy. Fortunately for us, for the last 4 years, the trend has been going down and we hardly have any attacks. But we have become victims of this success, because as the threat goes down, the investments you get also goes down. But the biggest threat in terms of economic impact, I will say, is illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. Because fish forms a very critical part of our human security. In Ghana, 60% of our protein intake comes from fish. If we deplete our stocks, we would have to import, and we've started importing fish. It is a big challenge, and it contributes almost up to 5% of our GDP. So these are issues that we need to look at. So as I said, in terms of challenge as a whole, is the resources to run the Navy. But when you come to the threats, piracy and illegal fishing are things that we do not sleep over. So I thank you. This symposium has really revealed a lot. And what we have all come together to agree is that no one country can do it alone. We need to work together. As the chief of the South African Navy, Admiral Obese, said, that the principle of CTICC, which I don't know what it means, but it said CTICC means together. Yes. So we have to be together. We are not equally endowed. Some are more endowed than others, but everybody can contribute something. So it's important that we work together and that we continue having these dialogues, and then we can exchange ideas to make our countries better places for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, from the Chief of the Nigerian Navy, Vice Admiral Ogalla. Admiral, one question, Admiral. How can African navies enhance cooperation to combat piracy and illegal fishing, sir?
Oh, thank you very much. The issue of cooperation is key to addressing issues of maritime security. This is because of the inherent nature of the seas and oceans, which is the common heritage of mankind. Of course, we understand that the fishes and other marine resources in the maritime environment do not have boundaries. Yes. And therefore, for us to be able to address them, we must have effective collective approach, which requires adequate cooperation. Of course, within the African continent, particularly within the Gulf of Guinea, where Nigeria is, we have already initiated those forms of cooperation through the Yaoundé architecture, Yaoundé Code of Conduct, whereby we've divided the entire Gulf of Guinea into zones. And the essence of these zones is to be able to provide a framework whereby we can collaborate both in terms of information sharing, information exchange, joint patrols and exercises, as well as ensuring that law enforcement, prosecution are carried out in a seamless manner within the entire zone. These are some of the things that we are already doing, and we continue to improve on the situation as the situation permits. Critical among this is, for instance, part of what we are doing today, the Seapower for Africa Symposium, is aimed at improving that collaboration. This gives us opportunity to address some of the areas where we need to improve with respect to collaboration between our navies and coast guards in the African continent. And of course, that is the only way forward, because maritime crimes are fluid in nature. And if we have to allow every nation to do it alone, we will not achieve much. And we are seeing results already within the Gulf of Guinea. Of course, at one time, the Gulf of Guinea was one of the most piracy-prone areas. But based on this collaborative effort, we've been able to reduce that type of issues when it comes to piracy, when it comes to illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, to such an extent that we're having some relative peace in the Gulf of Guinea. And this is translating into the economies of our nation, and we are going to redouble our effort collectively to be able to do more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Chief of the Zimbabwean Defense Force, General Sibanda. General, what role will technology play in future naval operations, General?
Let me give you a general response to your question. And this is that technology has defined human development up to now, and is certainly going to continue to do so going forward. So in terms of the military, we're going to see a lot more development, faster development, especially with the introduction of artificial intelligence. And I think this will apply across the board, across all services of the military. And then it will be a question of adapting technologies from one service to another. But otherwise, it's going to play a very important role going forward.
Chief of Naval Staff, Senegalese Navy, Rear Admiral Sene, Admiral, what is the key takeaway from this symposium for African naval cooperation, Admiral?
Thank you for your question, but I want to seize the opportunity to thank Admiral Lobeze for inviting me to this very important meeting, grouping navies from all around the world. And then I think the main takeaway is, first, this symposium is an opportunity to gather African navies and to discuss about challenges in our waters and how to better cooperate among ourselves to better deal with threats and challenges and problems at sea. It is very important because having this kind of meeting can give us the opportunity, I said, to find rooms of cooperation, how to better work together in order to deal with all the problems we encounter at sea. But beyond this symposium, I am here in South Africa to reinforce the cooperation between our navies. Many years ago, we sent people down to South Africa for training. And then now I'm here to talk with Admiral Lobeze to see how I can get from the Navy support to reinforce the capacities of my crews regarding diving operation and in other related activities, specialties, and any other area of operation between our navies.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from Rear Admiral Sene, all the way from Senegal,